The other issue is the governance issue and oversight of the police service. There clearly seems to be some overlap. And sometimes overlap do cause conflict. Because if you have one party reporting to several masters, the question arises as who is really in control. There's also the issue, or an issue within the current legislative framework, which mandates the Commission to hear appeals. But in the Cabinet-approved structure, there's a provision for what was set up an appeals body. So I'm just outlining some of the key points that we have identified and that to some extent have been identified by the presentation so far. So I now want to invite you to comment, say your piece. Yes, Mr. Reno.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The question, function of each of those, then we could move forward to determine, as a matter of fact, even where there's overlap or not, right, will be dependent on what the role and function is. And I just want to place before the forum that the government of Trinidad and Tobago has embarked on a deliberate program of development. And this is since 2006 I'm talking about here. So we're talking about the previous government. Aim to achieve by the year 2020. In that regard, the government's vision operational plan has highlighted, and I'm quoting here now, a fundamental pillar of government's crime control strategy is the transformation of the police service in terms of its organizational culture, operations, management systems, and human resource capabilities. The police service must function with greater efficiency and effectiveness by becoming more professional in its crime-fighting capabilities, technology-driven and service-oriented, basically. So the government's determination to improve the governance arrangements for more efficient and effective management of the service was captured in a particular statement, which is really, I think, the foundation of all that we are discussing here now. And I quote again, "The reform of the management of the police service is critical to the success of the modernization process. Both the government and the opposition recognize that the police service cannot be properly managed under the present system, and in particular under the constraint imposed by the Police Service Commission. Therefore, the Commissioner of Police must be given full authority to manage the service, but should be held accountable for his performance. It was, however, agreed by both parties that this accountability would be to the Police Service Commission, which in turn will be accountable to the Parliament. Today, because of the consensus reached between the government and the opposition, we are on the threshold of national progress in the fight against crime and the return to a safer society." And of course, that is what gives birth to where we are now. And I think I just want us to keep that in focus if we are to really define those roles and in order to get the sort of structures that we need to move forward. Now, because we focus on, let's say, the police service as the agency in which we have focused for changing and for modernizing, but in fact, the systems in which we are to bring about that modernization are archaic and definitely cumbersome, as was clearly defined by the DPA. So basically, I'm saying that this statement of the joint agreement between the opposition and the government at that time is critical, even in moving forward as we speak. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. The floor is open for comments. Members of the Secretariat, feel free to comment as well. Yes? Yes. Could we let her?
I am pleased to hear the comment of the representative from the Ministry of National Security, and he stated that we were in agreement, the opposition in agreement of the reform of the police service, and actually that was indeed taking place, and I hope it continues. Also, I think our main concern is also the fact that the Commissioner of Police, the accountability part of it,
Yes.
because for me, being a former minister in the Ministry of National Security, I was always very concerned about the detection rate of the police. And I feel that something must be done, because at the end of the day, I mean, crime was really going up, increasing, but yet the detection rate was very low. And somehow, something had to be done within the police service. I don't know if it had to deal with the management system, the structures, or if based on results, people should be compensated. Maybe the allowance system need to be looked at and reviewed so that based on the detection and so on, that then people will be given some form of remuneration. But I am happy with the information that I heard from the representative of National Security, and we are indeed concerned, and I don't know how the commission could now do something to assist in that area.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Anyone else? Ms. MacDonald, may I dare be so bold as to ask a comment?
Certainly, the comment I will have to make is I have listened carefully to what the DPA, what's her name?
Ms. Edward Joseph.
Ms. Joseph. What Ms. Joseph had to say, and I always wanted to find that synergy between the commission and her role. And I think she has clarified that this morning to me, because in the public domain, I'll tell you personally from where I sit, I always felt as if there was a little conflict, a little concern I always had. And I'm very happy to have heard from the DPA this morning. But all in all, this morning has been an eye-opener for me, and I'm happy that I was invited here. And to you, Dr. Rai, I know that I'm not on the program, though both Ms. Cox and I had indicated that we would have been here. I'm representing Dr. Rowley, but we are not on the program. But suffice it to say that, through protocol and through, respect, I thank the Police Service Commission for inviting both Ms. Cox and I here this morning. I think that we have learned a lot. We'll take back to our leader, all right, what has transpired. I also have the feature address delivered by Professor Ramage Deusaran, who I think is quite a person. I've been very friendly with Mr. Deusaran from the Senate. I think he's quite an intelligent person and a person that I would like to work with one day. And to you, Mr. Rai, Dr. Rai, I want to state that on behalf of Dr. Rowley, who could not have been here this morning, he has extended his apologies, but as you see, he's ably represented. I thank
We
you.
acknowledge that, ma'am. And we look forward for when we have that larger forum to hearing from you in particular again. Are there any other views?
Are you saying you didn't want to hear from me?
No. We also want to hear from you, Ms. Cox.
Thank you.
Especially given your previous functions in the Ministry of National Security. Anybody? No? Maybe I could put... Sure. There's a mic right in. For recording purposes. Look,
Yes, let me just add a comment from the perspective of the Joint Select Committee of both houses that essentially provides some oversight and gets some feedback in terms of the work of the Police Service Commission. Dr. Tiwari, will you please listen to me? Sorry, Dr. Ram Saran, Dr. David Saran, yes. I think what we have heard today has been aired before our committee, and that is that there is I should say, a great deal of fragmentation in allowing the Police Service Commission to do its work in a very efficient manner. But I'm less concerned about the Police Service Commission. I'm actually more concerned about the delivery of services by the police, ensuring not only efficiency, but equity and fairness in terms of the whole role of promotions and other aspects of the police service. And therefore, we have to be concerned about the Police Service Commission because it's a very elemental part of the whole program and process of delivery of these services in terms of national security, personal security of the person, and so on. So the bottom line is that we have to find a way to resolve some of the fragmentation that exists. We have to move to better harmonization of the various arms, because it is not possible to have total autonomy. And I think, as Professor Devisaran said, it is not possible and it is not even desirous to have total autonomy, but that the interdependence that ought to be there does not provide pushback, but rather provides facilitation of the work of this many-armed function, so that whatever role that we can play from the point of view of legislation and regulation, we will do our part in terms of bringing this to the attention of the Parliament. But having done that, I think Gloria spoke about the DPA spoke about her role as an accounting officer and some of the challenges in terms of providing all the requisite services to the various service commissions. I think part of the challenge is to get the regulations updated so that it could reflect clearly the terms and conditions and the operating ambit of the Police Service Commission. Clearly, the Police Service Commission is operating under very outdated regulations. And if those regulations can be brought to bear on the operations, I think we will move closer towards this goal that we all share of efficiency in terms of the various arms of providing security to the nation. So let me ask the Police Service Commission, whether it be through the legal commission or otherwise, to seek as quickly as possible to look at the regulations and to accelerate its work, working with whoever it needs to get regulations in place that will allow for that greater autonomy and, by extension, the greater efficiency. So I leave that with you, Professor Devisaran.
Thank you, Mr. Ramkilawan. It's a vital point in the machinery of the Police Service Commission, the regulations. We are now initiating that process, and through the DPA, we are actively negotiating a consultancy to develop the regulation you speak about. So that should be on board before the end of the year, our regulations, if all goes well. Good point, and thank you very much.
I just want to throw a little point, a small point into the mix, into the discourse. When Professor presented this morning, he presented a chart. And one of the issues that we have been discussing as the Secretariat, as well as with the Commission, is the issue of accountability and reportability of the Commissioner of Police. The chart that the professor presented this morning really shows there are several agencies that have a hand or many hands in control of the operations, whether it's through instructions or through policy statements of the police service via the Commissioner of Police. For instance, the National Security Council, Ministry of National Security, to some extent, monitoring by the Police Complaints Authority, and then, of course, the Police Service Commission being mandated to both monitor and appraise, amongst other things. Now, in some jurisdictions that we have looked at, the monitoring or the oversight function of police services are different, yes. But it seemed to, from what we have looked at, that both the complaints, monitoring or dealing with police complaints against police officers, as well as the other monitoring aspects in terms of performance and so on, is done by one agency. In Trinidad, we seem to have 2 different agencies, or maybe even 3 different agencies performing those functions. So let's deal with it. On one hand, you have addressing complaints against police officers, and you have the Police Complaints Authority with its own act. So we say, okay, that is separate and apart from. But then you have the PSC that has a twofold